couple of other matchups.
Hello and welcome back, everybody, to the second round of the second weekly of the Eternal Tournament Series, Season 3. We are jumping straight into a matchup of Confirm4Crit on Stonescar Burn versus Linyvine on what is called Traditional Armory, so Fire Justice Shadow Armory. But there is some interesting inclusions, notably Stray into Shadow, one of the new cards that I am super excited to see. So I'm glad that we're going to get to see that, hopefully, in this matchup. We see Linyvine starting out with a bit of a slower hand getting that Inspire off, but he does have the Sword of Ikaria to help with some of the early pressure. Confirm4Crit, on the other hand, got the Pyro Knight on turn 1, and he's going to have the 4/4 Champion of Chaos on turn 2, so a very strong start out of him.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. And hello, I'm here now. We have Champion of Chaos, and looks like the Sword of Ikaria going in for the Pyro Knight. A lot of war cry there and useful stuff. I think that the fully fleshed out Champion of Chaos does generate a lot of pressure for this board.
Yeah, it really does. And Linyvine's going to be very happy that he managed to pick up this the inspired Auric Runehammer. That way he can actually deal with this champion. Otherwise, this was going to be a pretty interesting turn for him. He was guaranteed to take another 5. And against the Stonescar Burn deck, you really cannot afford to take any damage. You have to be very careful with your life total.
Linny putting his first Auric Runehammer out, which means that it might be a little bit hard to deal with this Umbran Reaper once it comes down. And yeah, once the second one comes out, that actually signals the Umbran Reaper to be played.
Yeah, and now Linyvine is already down to 10 health with the Umbran Reaper in hand. He's going to need to have some big pickups here. Missing power going to hurt him here. He really needed to get to 5, 6, 7. That way he can get some of these bigger unit weapons down. But unfortunately, just a little bit starved.
Yeah, being starved is pretty bad here. Linny wants to get up to that 8 power so that he can get the 8 health gain off of Sword of the Sky King. And until then, he's going to be in a lot of trouble. But he does draw a third Auric Runehammer, which effectively neutralizes this Umbran Reaper. It gains crit 5 health, but the damage, both the 5 damage and the 5 from the Entomb effect, are completely prevented.
Yeah, definitely very important that Linyvine use that Rise to the Challenge to fish up the third Auric Runehammer. Nice heads up play out of him there. And all of a sudden, Linyvine going to be in an interesting situation. He's going to be able to fish out these hammers, and Confirm4Crit only got this single impending doom going on right now. He's definitely looking to draw some live burn in Flame Blast or Obliterate.
Yeah, Confirm's style so far has been very, very aggressive, but also like not willing to develop units into an existing relic weapon. He's not wanted to Linyvine to get value out of like torches or any sort of extra type of bonus like that. So as a result, like he doesn't have any fast spells left, and he's going to have to actually put these impending dooms and champions down in front of weapons that are pretty scary at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. This 5/4 Auric Runehammer is no joke against all these threats. And Linyvine also can just be kind of comfortable to fire off 1 or 2 of these harsh rules if he needs to, even against single threats, since he knows he has the hammer in play. And he's pretty well against units that don't have charge. Confirm4Crit definitely looking for Flame Blast, Obliterate, and the Soulfire Drake here. Try and push some extra damage and take away this weapon.
It surprises me that he's not playing anything here, but with the Flame Blast, he does get to take away the weapon. Like I feel like these 5/5s do offer at least a little bit of damage against Linyvine. They force Linny to play a new weapon.
Yeah, they demand an answer out of Linyvine, which we do know he has the extra Auric Runehammer, but that's kind of the trick to playing in that way, is that you know eventually you have to get the rest of the weapons out. If you just turtle up for too long, then it's not going to work out very well. And already, yeah, we see Linyvine deciding probably going to put a weapon on here to try and conserve his life total a little, but he definitely can pressure a lot of damage right here, and it's going to force Confirm4Crit to draw another Flame Blast or another Obliterate.
Yeah, the Auric Runehammer here is smart. The Icaria is very, very threatening, but obviously he wants to be above torch range, so that's one less card that Confirm can top deck and kill him with.
Yeah, and this is interesting now because this Umbran Reaper actually presents a lethal threat that Linyvine can't actually deal with, I don't. And just like that, unfortunately, the Orc not having another Orc Runehammer gonna be the end of Linyvine. He's trying to look for a way around it, but I really don't think he can find one. You're either going to take the 5 damage next turn from the Umbran Reaper, or you're going to have to kill it and let the damage go off.
Yeah, it looks like this is the end for Linny. That last Umbran Reaper is just too much damage. Umbran Reaper is a very powerful card against Armory, even if you get those Auric Rune Hammers on time, because it just presents so much pressure that it's just a tricky card to deal with.
Yeah, Linyvine really needed to hit. He needed to hit a power there. Like that was honestly his draw, was hitting a power and then getting sort of the Sky King down here, and that would have actually kept him alive at 1 and taken care of the Umbran Reaper and given him some sort of out next turn with like an Icaria into torch for it.
Showing off the Icaria before he concedes. Yeah, even if he had not drawn a power, if that Umbran Reaper hadn't been Crit's top deck, a harsh roll into 2 torches with an Auric Runehammer kicker was exact lethal for him, or just 1 over rather.
Yeah, so a little bit unfortunate there, but Confirm4Crit is going to be taking down game 1, and now we are going to get to see these players' sideboard plans in action. Let's go ahead and check out Linyvine, see what he can do. He's got 4 Ruins, 4 Sabotages, 4 Annihilates, a Plague, and 2 Furnace Mage. So pretty straightforward sideboard here. Probably going to see some Sabotages come in, I imagine. Probably see a couple Annihilates.
Yeah, all 4 of the Sabotages coming in for this Stonescar deck.
Yeah.
And looks like that's the only changes that he made. He cut 2 Suffocates and threw in 4 Sabotages. And I'm not sure what the other card he cut was, but those Sabotages were basically his whole game plan as far as sideboarding goes.
Yeah, Confirm4Crit on that Stonescar Burn deck. Yeah, playing 4 Sabotages, 2 Piercing Shots, 4 Plagues, 3 Burnouts, and 2 Subverts. Yeah, mainly his game plan here, like you pointed out, is just bringing in those 4 Sabotages and just trying to disrupt the game plan of the traditional Armory deck, taking away their weapons and other important cards like Rise to the Challenge and Harsh Rule.
So there are now 8 Sabotages in this round, where previously there were 0. So that should lead to some games where the hands are a little bit more empty, and should see a lot of different types of back and forth as a result.
Yeah, going to be very coming down a lot to top decks here. And Linyvine, wow, both players actually with 5 powerers off the start. 5 power. That doesn't roll too well.
Yeah, Crit wants this 5 power. Admittedly, if you're playing a Stonescar deck, it's more important to get an on-curve champion, but being able to access 5 power and get to those good 5 drops is pretty useful for his setup, whereas Linny doesn't really have anything in terms of playable cards, but can certainly expect to draw into some good stuff.
Yeah, he's going to be needing to draw into something powerful here. Confirm4Crit already having the Soulfire Drake. Ooh, and Linyvine picking up a Rakano Artisan. That's actually a pretty good pickup here. Going to buff all the weapons for future use.
You always want those early, and it's certainly a powerful card in this particular situation. The Confirm4Crit has the option to torch the 2/1, but it doesn't really seem worth it at this point. So he's just going to leave it be.
Yeah, and this is really, it was really slow out of Linyvine, unfortunately, just hitting basically solid power. And now we see him pick up a Harsh Rule, but he is just going to put Confirm4Crit on this very, very slow clock and eventually force one of these 2 torches Confirm4Crit has out.
Yeah, I think the slow game does favor Linny over time, although Crit just has a lot more in terms of gas in his hand. So, like, now that he's got that Soulfire Drake out and Linny doesn't have great answers to that, he can Harsh Rule, but that's about it. It's going to be a little bit tricky.
Yeah, I can't imagine you want to fire off the Harsh Rule here, and indeed we do see him pick up this Auric Runehammer, and getting in the Auric Runehammer pretty big here, and gonna take care of this Soulfire Drake and getting the Armor Smith down. We will see an Obliterate on this Armor Smith this turn.
Yeah, that's a pretty solid just 2-for-1 for confirm. It is. Oh, okay. Torching into Vara's favor here instead of using the obliterate. I guess he's saving it for larger threats. So that will set him up pretty well. He's not going to have a lot of other targets for that Vara's favor, so I can see why you'd run this line of play.
Yeah, and interesting. Yeah, Linyvine going ahead and getting down the seat there, and wow, good thing he got that seat down because now this big 9/9 Sword of the Sky King comes down, and all of a sudden now there is a very real clock on Confirm4Crit. He's going to need to
Yeah,
find some Umbran Reapers and some charge creatures, and Vara's favor is not doing.
I mentioned last game how much Linyvine wanted to get to that 8 power, and we can already see why that's so important. Not only did he just gain 9 health against a Stonescar deck, but he's also got a very, very serious threat that's currently just forcing Confirm to play out all of his cards, and it's still not helping.
Yeah, it really isn't, and we see that obliterate come flying in, and because of that, yeah, Confirm4Crit, he's going to need to pick up, I believe, his probably a soul out here is an Umbran Reaper.
These Stonescar decks do tend to flood a little bit, and that's something that you have to watch out for. And most of the time it's fine because you have a very, very good power sink where you get into that top deck mode and then you draw a Flame Blast, and because you've been flooding, Flame Blast is suddenly an amazing card. But here he just didn't draw enough gas, and that
Yeah,
really
he
hurt
never
him.
really got his wheels spinning in the first place, even. Just a very slow start out of both players. I think, honestly, that's kind of a killer to me as an ex Stone Scar player. I like to distance myself from the deck now. But when I did start, I did play a fair bit of the deck, and that definitely felt like when you start the game with 5 power and 2 cards, you're not often winning those games. Like, you're just too far behind. You really want to start with 2 to 3 power and 4 or 5 actual cards, burn units, whatever they may be. But you really need a lot of gas in the Stone Scar burn
Yeah,
deck.
you're digging for those early things because you know you're going to draw the late stuff. And you know you're going to draw power as well because you have a decent amount of sources for it. But yeah, so now we are going into, I believe, game 3, and just looking at some sideboard options. Looks like some subverts are coming in on the Stonescar Burn side, which I do appreciate. Think it's a pretty powerful card in this list, and it's very good against the control decks, the armory decks, and basically anything that has a slow game plan.
Yeah, definitely an interesting sideboarding game plan. We saw for a second there, Confirm4Crit actually yanking all the sabotages out and then puts 3 of them back in. So keeping 3 of those in, definitely a great card to have in this matchup. And leaving in 2 subverts,
Yeah,
or rather putting them in.
I think as far as sideboard plans go, having 4 sabotages is a bit intense, especially if you are running, like if you aren't running a deck that's like basically all spells. Like, so both of these players are playing like a decent amount of units and a decent amount of other stuff. Oftentimes the sabotages just aren't going to hit enough, and so I think the subvert is actually a better choice.
Yeah, I do like the inclusion of Subvert here. And we're going to see how well it pays off. Linyvine with an excellent starting hand here. Rakano Artisan, Sword of Akaria, Armor Smith, Corey, and Daisho, all excellent cards in the matchup. Confirm4Crit on the other side also has a fairly good start, picking up the Oni Ronin later than he wanted to, but still having him hang out for the party nonetheless.
Mhm. Argenport Instigator is such a rough play on turn 2, but if you have the torch for it, it's just such a bad swing for you because it means that you typically are just down a unit, and then also that little extra point of damage does matter. If that happens to you, then Argenport Instigator just doesn't get enough pressure, and it can be pretty critical. So we'll see if that was going to be one of the helpful plays of the game.
Yeah, we will indeed. Out of Linyvine here, he took the time to play the Rakano Artisan to set up a little bit, but I honestly kind of wanted to see him fire off this Sword of Akaria with the buff on it to kill that Oni Ronin and just keep it around. Obviously, me having perfect information. I know that Confirm4Crit is going to have a hard time dealing with that, but I feel like you could probably sniff that out as well in Linyvine's position.
Well, it looks like right here he's going to be able to get it with an Auric Runehammer or a Sword of Akaria. So that Soulfire Drake is giving charge and flying, or charge or flying, to every unit in his deck. And once again, he's got that buffed sword, just giving him enough armor to play Armorsmith for free, which is a pretty good tempo play.
Yeah, it is a pretty good tempo play. I think I might have honestly liked not playing the Armorsmith in that case.
Yeah,
So,
it ended up setting up for that perfect obliterate again. That pixel perfect, just exact right
yeah, and
damage
that's
for
kind of
the
the problem
job.
I have with the Armorsmiths in this matchup is you have to be very selective about when you want to drop them, because once that burn deck gets to 5, it's so likely that they have Obliterate or high damage Flame Blast or even Soulfire Drake to just push in for immediate damage. So you have to be really careful with how you play out your weapons.
So,
But we see Confirm4Crit lacking any actual threats here outside of this burn.
yeah, Crit chose to obliterate Linyvine's face as opposed to one of the Recano Artisans, which basically doubles his clock. But it does mean that he'll have one extra point of damage on Linyvine's face when he's drawing into his Flame Blasts and the like. I'm not sure if I agree with not playing Stonescar Banner here, since he obviously need the power to draw Flame Blast and win.
Yeah, I think I'm completely with you there. Like he really wanted the Stones banner down, but I guess it's not going to matter anyway due to sensing. But what is going to matter is this big old Stone Scar Maul coming in at 9-6. These were kind of artisans putting in a lot of work buffing this thing up.
Yeah, I think not targeting Linyvine's Artisan with the Obliterate was probably the killer play there. Like it just ended up getting him a little too much damage on his face, and the Stone Scar Maul came across for exact lethal a couple turns early.
Yeah, it really did there. And that is going to do it, right? Linyvine 2-1 there.
Yep, that
Ends up
is
taking it back over the Stone Scar Burn deck.
secures it for the Armory deck. So yeah,